Hi, I'm Sam Langford, and some of you I know have been wondering, who is that old guy that's with them? How did he get involved with the Cletus group? I see him with those guys all the time. Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got there.
Happy 79th birthday, brother.
Let me tell you where I first got my start. And you're saying, well, that goes a long way back because I am old. Oh, yeah. It goes back to the Flathead days. And I was under the tutelage of my dad and this fellow, Dick Barnes, who had a little shop there. And it was in the Flathead Ford days. Oh, and some of the stuff they done on those. And he'd tell me, you got to remember this because there's carburetors and on and on and on. Well, anyway, that was the start. That's what got me interested in it. So when I phased out of the Flathead era of things into a little bit of the small block Chevrolet, it's like, okay, what's the next transition? Well, the year was 1988. So me and a friend of mine from Indiana were cleaning up cars a lot, and he said, you know, it'd be nice if we had products that were worthy of our cars. And so I teasingly said to him, I said, well, just make our own. And he just laughed and said, yeah. So I saw him again in about 2 weeks, and he said, hey, was you serious? I said, well, yeah. So he's the chemist. He went to school to be the chemist, and I run the other portion of it, you know, the back portion, if you will. Done a lot of the sales calls out there on it. So that was in 1988. So then we sold the business, you know, about 5 years ago, but it had, we'd got up to a pretty good sized company. Well, I say pretty good size in a small business. There's like 51 employees, had lots of products, done a lot of private label work. And a guy came along and said, we'd like to buy the company. And I said, you know anything about this stuff? And he said, no. I said, this is pretty tough business. He said, oh, we can handle it. I said, all right. So I told him, I said, take 2 weeks and think about it. And he did, and he came back and he said, we still want to buy it. I said, okay, here's the pen, sign that right there, you know. So we stayed on, I say we, Rick and I stayed on. He stayed on to help him with formulas. I stayed on to help him with some of the machines to fill the product on. That was how that came about. Then I said, well, okay, now that the business is sold, what am I going to do now? Oh, it was an easy transition. So you got cars of your own back in your shop. Well, you can tinker around with them a lot. So my next door neighbor, James Towle, says, okay, old man, what are you going to do now that you're retired? And I said, well, dink around with some of these cars, you know. And he said, you ought to come over to our shop sometime. And I said, okay. And he said, I'll introduce you to Cletus. I said, well, I already know him. Well, about that time, they had a birthday party for one of his children here. So I got to meet the whole crowd there because they were all there. Then I went over to the shop the next week, and that was when it all started. He asked me what I did, and I told him. And he said, well, do you ever detail any cars? And I said, well, I wasn't a detailer per se. I did teach detailing, and I know how to do it. And he said, well, what about this Ruby car? That thing was awful. Oh, I mean, it was terrible. And I said, okay, I'll start there. So he was out for a couple of days, and he came back, and I had it done. And he said, I don't believe it. And he said, pardon me for giving you a slam. I said, ain't no big deal. He said, can you do another one? I said, sure. Which one? He said, that Blazer. So he did it, and that was when he asked me, he said, well, you know, you ought to be on our team. And I said, is that an invite? He said, well, yeah. And I said, well, Cletus, if you're inviting me, yes, I'm in. He said, all right. He said, can you travel? I said, oh, yes, I can travel. He said, you know, you're getting up in years. And I said, don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. I can travel, but I'll be okay. I'm not going to hold you back. And I tell you what, it's been a dream come true because I could not have written a better script than what he has given me, you know, with the things to do, getting to travel with the company, getting to be with those guys every day. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, it just fast forwards everything that I do and the stuff that I get exposed to on it. And as you guys already saw, I've got lots of hot rod projects back there, but those guys help me on a lot of stuff. Now, when I say help me, I don't take it to their shop. They help me in knowledge based on the thing. Because, you know, I mean, me being way back there, we didn't have none of this keyboard. When you went to a drag strip then, everybody had the hood up and they was under there monkeying around. And now you go to the drag strip, and they got the laptop on top of the car and the hood's shut. Okay, well, that's kind of the transition. That's what I have to catch up with. So there's where we are. My three most memorable moments with the Cletus group are these. The one that he asked me to come in is big, but then he asked me, he said, well, do you want to be an employee? And I said, well, not really, I've been that. And he said, well, what would you like to do? And I said, I'd like for you to handle my products. And he said, what else? I said, no, that's fine. So he handles my products through his distribution, which he's set up that way on. That's the first one on the thing. That's huge. That's a big deal on the thing. Then our very first trip it's like, he said, can you handle this? I said, yes, I can handle it. So we went to, out to Las Vegas. And it was fantastic. I mean, it just, of course, they give me a hard time about being old and all like this, and they made a lot of videos of it, but it's good. It was fantastic. And then the third one was, he said, do you think you can go on the Rocky Mountain week thing? And I said, why not? And that day, he had a car for me. Well, that day, he said the car didn't materialize, and they had the toter all loaded up. And he said, can you take your Corvette? And I said, dang, it's a street car. I said, this got street tires on it. He said, bring it on. So I took it from here over there and just drove it right up on the trailer and locked it down. So it had street tires and everything. And that one right there. So that was probably the three right there. There's others, but those three right there stand out the most of being with that organization. And there's just the overall acceptance of those guys that's on that team, you know, to come on in here. You know, that's a great group. He has a fantastic group of people there all the way around. I mean, from the ones in the backdrop on it that you never get to see, the ones up in the front, to the camera people. I mean, it takes that whole army to get this thing done, because if it was just us, you can't get it done. It's like if you took away the fans, what do you got? Nothing. So we're indebted to all of that stuff, but those are my three most memorable times with the organization. A lot of people have asked me, Sam, what was your first car? Well, actually, it wasn't a car, it was a truck. It was a 49 Chevrolet truck, 5-window. I didn't know what I had, you know. I mean, of course, you can't fast forward 30 or 40 or 50 years and know what it is, so it was okay. I mean, it was a nice truck, you know, and then went into a 54 Ford and on like that. But, you know, as you get on into your career, you think, there's got to be more to it than this. I don't want to learn more. I want to learn about machining and all that sort of thing. So how do I do that? Well, there in Asheville, there was a technical college there that said, okay, we teach machining, you know, machine shop. And it was a pretty good degree of it. Okay, so I went to that. It was a 2-year program. I went to that. And then the instructor, Albert Awal, says to me, you know, this is only beginner stuff. He said, you need to go into tool and die. And he said, that's what separates the men from the boys. I said, all right, I'll do that. And he says, pretty tough. And I said, you tell me I can't do it? And he said, no, it's just tough. You just got to apply yourself. All right. So I did. I went into the tool and die program. That's another 2-year deal. Well, when I came out of that, now you have to serve as an apprentice somewhere in a place that will accept apprentice for that program. So it's like, depending on the place, 2,000 to 4,000 hours of what you serve, and at the end of that, then you're a certified journeyman on the thing. So which means now you can go into a tool and die shop, and you're ready. You got your card, there you go. Well, that's what that was on the thing, and that's where a lot of the machining that I do now, both and I make, you know, like I was telling you, I make wrist pins for pistons and stuff like that, and all the different machines that I can run, from centerless grinders to lathes to Bridgeports, all like that. It's just kind of second nature, but that's how all of that came in. Oh, did I have moments that was going to test your faith, test your stamina, test your mettle, if you will. Several of those along the way, and just a couple of them on it, is you get up to a certain point and you think, okay, I'm qualified for this, qualified for that, what do I do? And then you go to a place and they're not accepting journeyman, go to another person not accepting that, and think, oh dang, what do I do? And then you say, well, okay, maybe I can make something, and there's a little machine shop there that we had access to. That's when we started making piston pins. And we made them for a couple of shops there in Asheville. And they were unique in that it was just for a small block Chevrolet, but you can make them very, very light, you know, because there's no power adders on that. So you can make them light. There was like 89 thousandths wall thickness on it, meant to be run with a lightweight piston, and you can run it with Carrillo rods and that sort of thing. And anytime you can reduce that slinging weight, if you will, that's just free horsepower on it. So that was some of the things, but you knew what you could do, but you couldn't get them, you know, let me show you. And they're like, eh. So when you finally get to show someone, but during that period you think, whew, man, I ain't got money to eat on the thing. You're like, dang it. And insurance bills come due and this comes due, and like, oh, what do we do? Well, all of a sudden things start to begin to work out, and then someone says, okay, we'll give you, and that day was unheard of, we'll give you a little sign-on bonus here. And it's like, what is that? And it's like a $2,000 sign-on bonus. And I thought, my goodness, really? And they said, yeah. But you got to work for us 2 years. Okay, I can do that. But it was one where your heart sinks and you think, man, you look in your billfold and there's a bunch of dust in there and think, whew, what are we going to do? And who are you going to borrow from? Because your friend's in the same shape you are. They go, okay, what am I going to do? And you're trying to go back on you are going back on your training. And at the time, my parents were still alive, but you can't go back to your parents and like, oh, please, could I borrow money? Like, no. I mean, they would, but I didn't do that. And then pretty soon when you apply yourself, and that's really the key to it, you got to apply yourself. There's nobody but you there, so you say, okay, I better figure out what's going to do here. You can't go to your friends because your friends saying, well, I was just going to come to you. You can't, so you say, okay, I'll have to do it myself. That's what it amounts to, I think. So you call on yourself, and that's really, it puts you down in the hard bedrock of yourself. What are we going to do? And that's what we do. So that's what these guys do here in this Cletus group. You know, they weren't always famous. You know, they went through some rough stuff on it, you know, people saying, what the heck is that? But it all adds up to, you know, and it all, you know, when you go back to some of the early days of it, it's like, wow, what were those guys thinking? They were thinking down here, you know. They're looking here, 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 here. And, you know, Cletus has got a good forward vision of things, you know, and he knows that satisfaction of the fans is a big deal. So part of what he does, or a big portion of what he does, is, okay, what do the fans think of this? What do they do here? What do they think of this? We could do this or this. And he's a good visionary, good visionary. If I had something to leave with somebody today, it would be this. We're dealt one card each day, and that's a money card. And you're allowed to spend that day. So whatever you spend it on, that's your call. But at the end of the day, you can't spend tomorrow's, you can't spend yesterday's, you have to spend today's. So my saying is this, spend it well, because you don't get it back. Once that day's gone, it's gone. You can't go back and say, well, let me pull up Monday again and relive some of that. No, that's done. Now you go to Tuesday, Wednesday. So that's, if there's something to offer to people, well, what did you do? Try to get up every morning, and when I wake up now, and fast forward to now, I wake up now and think, okay, what do I get to do today? Work on hot rods. Oh, they get to be with my crew over there, and then we got lots of trips coming up, and he always says, can you make it, old man? Yeah, I can make it. Here we go. So that's where we are now. Advice for the younger car community. I would say to them, and this is a little abrupt, but I'd say it to them, open your eyes. You have so much stuff sitting right in front of you in this car world, and you're saying, well, I don't like cars. Doesn't have to be whether you like cars or not. Can you write a program? Can you contribute something on that laptop thing you got? Maybe you can have something that you can offer to this community of that. So look at it, see what you've got. And in so doing, you may turn out that you like some of these cars. You may want to go on one of these drag and drive events. So what do I got to do? Well, get you a car that you think will make it, get it prepped for it, and off we go, like the one we just went on. So there's several of those coming up per year. There's drag and drives, there's the ones we do, the sick week thing, there's lots of those on the Route 66 thing. Any of those things you can participate in. You just call the head of it on it. They want to be in it. They got a sign-up time. And I think you're going to be surprised, especially you young guys are going to be really surprised what it offers to you. Now, admittedly, I know there's a lot of old people in this stuff, but you get to know some of them. They're pretty cool, pretty cool. You get to know some of them. It's like, hey, that guy ain't bad. He's a little old, but he ain't bad, you know. That's what you want to. That can add to your future, because sometimes when you look at the young people's future ahead of them now, sometimes it's pretty bleak. So I say to them, cars are going to be here for a while. And, you know, you hear lots of stuff one way or the other on it, but why don't you just immerse yourself in it? And if you're good on the keyboard, it don't matter what kind of car it is. You're good on the keyboard. And pick you something that, find out what is needed in that community of the electronics on it, and see how you fit in that. This is Sam Langford again, and that gives you a brief history of who I am, where I came from, what I have done, some of the things I've done, because you can't cover it all. It'd be too boring if I tried to cover it all, but that's where we are now. So you know a little bit more about me now. So when you see me, ask me about different things when you're out there, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the circuit.